The wind howled across the dry plains like it carried old sins with it when the woman appeared at the edge of the ranch, dust clinging to her torn shawl, her face pale with fear and resolve. A small boy pressed against her chest as if she could shield him from the world by sheer will alone. And when the cowboy stepped out onto the porch, hand resting near his holster, he saw something that made him pause. Not danger, not weakness, but desperation sharpened into courage. She didn't beg at first, didn't cry, didn't even ask for shelter. She simply stood there until the boy whimpered, and then her voice broke through the wind like a knife, telling him men were coming, bad men, men who'd already burned one house and buried one husband, men who wanted her son because of a land deed sewn into his coat, land soaked in oil and blood. And when the cowboy told her to leave, that he didn't want trouble, she stepped forward anyway, eyes blazing, and said the words that would haunt him forever. "If you protect my son, I'll be yours forever." A promise spoken not in seduction but in sacrifice, and the ranch went silent as the weight of it settled between them. The cowboy laughed once, sharp and humorless, saying he didn't buy people and didn't need a woman chained by fear. But when riders appeared on the horizon, dust clouds rising like omens, his smile faded, and he saw the boy clutching a wooden horse, shaking, and something inside him shifted, something old and buried, something he'd sworn died with his own family years ago. He told them to get inside, locked the doors, loaded his rifle, and as the first gunshot cracked the sky, the woman realized his response wasn't words at all but action, brutal and unwavering. And by nightfall the ranch was scarred with bullet holes and blood in the dirt, the attackers driven off or dead. And as the cowboy stood under the lantern light, wounded but standing, the woman whispered thank you, tears finally falling, and he answered with a line that stunned her more than the gunfire. "Your son was never a bargain. He was a responsibility." And as the boy slept by the fire, safe for the first time in weeks, the woman realized this man wasn't protecting them for a promise but for a code. And viewers watching this moment should understand this is the turning point, the kind of story where one decision changes every life involved. So if you want to hear what that decision costs them all, this is the moment to subscribe, because the storm has only just begun. Morning brought smoke, vultures, and consequences, because protection always has a price, and the cowboy knew it as he buried the dead attackers beyond the fence line, knowing more would come. Knowing the land deed sewn into the boy's coat was a death sentence unless dealt with. And when the woman offered herself again, voice trembling but determined, saying she'd keep her word, cook, clean, warm his bed, disappear into his life if it meant her son lived, the cowboy finally snapped, slamming his fist into the table and shouting words that shocked her more than kindness ever could, telling her she didn't owe him her body, her freedom, or her future, that protection bought with chains wasn't protection at all. Instead, he burned the deed in the fire, watching her scream as flames consumed the paper that had killed her husband, chased her across the plains, and put her son in danger. And when she collapsed, thinking all was lost, he knelt and told her land wasn't worth a child's life, that men like him didn't survive by greed, but by lines they refused to cross. And when the men returned days later with badges this time, claiming the land by force, they found nothing to take and a ranch defended not by fear but by unity. The woman stayed, not as property, not as payment, but as choice. And the boy began calling the cowboy sir, then uncle, and finally something softer that made the man turn away so no one saw his eyes. And when the final threat passed and the ranch healed, the woman stood before him once more and said she still chose him not because she had to but because she wanted to. And this time his response shocked everyone again, not with rejection, but with a quiet yes, earned, not bought. And years later the boy would grow strong under that roof, knowing what real protection looked like, knowing love wasn't traded but given. And this story reminds every viewer that strength isn't in owning someone, it's in standing between them and the world without asking for anything in return. And if stories like this move you, if you believe courage and sacrifice still matter, don't let this be the end. Subscribe to the channel now, because the next story might change the way you see strength forever.